Hello and welcome back to The Greatest is Love. Dale, we were going to go right into some more of the hallmarks of the sexual revolution, and how did it encroach upon our scene?
Well, while it seemed to break in the mid-60s at Woodstock, the foundation was laid, a generation before. The Kinsey Report in the late 40s, clearly sort of laid a scientific foundation for the idea everybody was really doing it. And then you have Hollywood, and I think we really have to look at the influence of movies, because although there were restrictions on showing anything, the content of the movies did not promote chastity. For instance, Doris Day and Rock Hudson, all those movies, which were supposed to be a sign of innocence. We'll go back and look at them again, because it's certainly not the Catholic idea of chaste behavior. She's chaste. He runs after her, and why does she resist? Because she has, moral values? Not really, because, in fact, she almost gives in all of the movies for very unsubstantial reasons. The whole thing is
It's where he's always wearing her down, and she's always saying, "I oughtn't," type of scenario.
No, but then, why? I mean, there's nothing there. And then you take another movie which I found to be very pivotal, which was Splendor in the Grass with Natalie Wood. And in that movie, the mother is portrayed as insane. She really is, and repressive, and Natalie Wood literally goes crazy because she doesn't have sex, because her mother is so terrible, and her boyfriend becomes an alcoholic. I mean, and the whole thing is that it would have been far better to have a sexually open relationship where this would not have happened. And that sort of attitude in film was pervasive. So even while they weren't showing what they're showing now, or openly encouraging it, the whole tenor of the times was an attack on sexual morality, and because it was subtle, people let it go.
Now, John Paul II, he's not Pope John Paul II at the time, but he comes in on the scene.
If we look at the situation in Poland when he became a priest, right after the war till about 1960, we see the sexual revolution was imposed upon Poland by the Russians, by the occupying power. And the communist Russians had the goal of destroying the power of the Catholic Church. They recognized very clearly that to control a captive country and to sell communism to Poland, they would have to break the power of the Catholic Church. And one of the ways they chose to do that was by promoting sexual immorality, abortion, divorce, every kind of sin, and there was a lot of that going on. So
yeah, I was wondering, to what degree were they successful? Was it
more successful than a confessor would have liked? So on the one hand, you had people becoming more loyal to the church because it did stand against the occupier, and the other hand, many people, the abortion rate was high.
Right.
The people were shoved into tiny little apartments. They didn't have room for children, so there would be abortions, and this was very difficult. So John Paul II, as a priest hearing confessions, was very aware of what was going on. And in the late 50s, when he was teaching, he would go out into the country with young married couples to discuss the morality and the philosophy and the theology of sexual intimacy. And it was in these conversations with families who were really under the pressure, who were really forced to defend their faith on the battlefield,
Right.
That he developed this thesis of love and responsibility.
Right.
He taught it as a course, and then he put it forward in a book. And it was the recognition, I think, of this that brought him to the attention of Paul VI and other people in the church. The book was not published in English until 1980, after he'd become Pope, and even then received relatively little publicity so that it was possible for a Catholic to perhaps have heard of it, but not to have read it. And read it, read it, read it, struggle through page by page, because this is the guidebook for the future. I think this is what we need. And frankly, as I said, when I read it, it just was like, wow. Every question that I've been asking was answered.
Right.
If you think of him as the great philosopher, theologian of the 20th century, all his writings begin with the concept of the human person. What does it mean to be a person?
Right.
And the crucial thing is that a person is a subject. Now, this is a very philosophical term.
And we're probably going to have to wait until the next program to get deeply into that, because it has such ramifications.
Well, if you start, just get this thought in your head until next week. You can't use a person as an object.
Right.
People are subjects. They have rights. You can't use them. And I think this is a concept that people understand. They know about using people and about being used.
Right.
And the essence of everything the Pope writes about everything, including sex, marriage, everything, is people are subjects and you can't use them as objects.
So we want to thank you for being on the program, and we want to welcome all of you to tune in again and keep up with us on this wonderful topic of love and responsibility by Pope John Paul II.